Today, guys, we are going to be checking out how Australia regional trains got so bad. So I don't understand the reason why trains got bad. Something must have happened, like, I don't know, during times in Australia. I have no idea. But yeah, let's watch this video. Let's find out why this is. And yeah, let's like the video. If you haven't liked, guys, like the video here, subscribe to the channel. We are getting close to 1,000 subscribers. That's amazing. I want to thank everyone for actually supporting like the journey so far. I mean, it's been amazing. So thank you all for that. And yeah, with that being said, let's get onto the video and see what we have.
Railways in Australian cities may have their issues, and while they might not compare to the top tier systems you can find in places like Europe and Asia, they're on the whole pretty decent. If you compare the passenger rail network of Sydney, for example, with similarly sized Atlanta in the United States, you can see what I mean. These networks enjoy strong ridership numbers, to the point where various state governments are investing billions of dollars into increasing their capacity, as these ridership numbers are expected to continue.
Look at that, they literally have a train in between the highway, bro. Like, there's cars going this side, cars going the other way, and they have a bloody train in the middle. How cool is that, man?
To grow.
That's cool.
But suburban railways are only one side of Australia's passenger rail network. The other are the intercity and regional train lines, where the story hasn't been as positive. While patronage has been growing rapidly on the suburban rail lines, for many of the intercity and regional lines it's been flatlining, if not declining. So why is that? Well, there are various reasons for this. The first, and among the most significant of which, would be that many of the routes are really slow. For example, if I wanted to get the train from Brisbane to Sydney, it would take me over 14 hours by train. 2 hours long.
Bro, I literally thought it would say 4 hours, but then I had 14 hours on a train, bro. That's a long time.
Longer than it would take to drive, and of course something like 12 hours longer than the equivalent flight.
Nah, man.
While in recent years a lot of money has been spent improving Australia's urban railways, with projects like Metronet in Perth, Cross River Rail in Brisbane and the Metro Tunnel in Melbourne, very little has been spent on Australia's regional ones. If anything, many of them have been closed down over the decades, and those that do still exist follow the same curvy alignments they did when they were built back in the steam age. And not only do these curves force trains to travel more slowly, they actually add considerable distance to the journeys.
Okay, that isn't how slow it goes, right? I'm sure the video is on slow motion. No way it goes that slow.
So, Australia's regional trains, at best, are the same speed as driving, but usually are slower.
Okay.
And Australia's regional towns tend to be pretty car-dependent places, so a lot of people who live in these towns have little reason to choose the train over their cars. Especially when you account for one of the other issues with Australia's regional trains, their general lack of frequency. There are some intercity routes with good frequencies, like from Sydney to Newcastle or Melbourne to Geelong, where trains on these routes often run multiple times an hour. And unsurprisingly, it's these routes that have good frequencies that have bucked the trend and seen their ridership increase, even when they're still slower than driving. The Sydney to Newcastle train, for example, is one of the country's fastest growing intercity rail lines, despite taking 30% longer than the equivalent route by car. And while there are multiple reasons for this, including the line operating as a kind of commuter service, a significant reason would be that for most of the day you can get a train between the two cities every half an hour. So if you want to travel between Sydney and Newcastle, you can basically make the trip whenever it suits you. This is not the case for many other regional rail lines. The overland service between Melbourne and Adelaide, respectively Australia's second and fifth largest cities, only runs twice a week in either direction.
Twice a week?
So, if you want to take the train between Adelaide and Melbourne, or any of the various smaller towns in between, on a Wednesday for example, well, you're out of luck. No wonder people are choosing to fly when on that same Wednesday you'd be able to pick from 18 different direct flights between those two cities. Poor frequencies and lack of speed have all contributed to a culture where most people don't even think about trains when considering regional Australian travel. In fact, I've met multiple people from Sydney who weren't even aware it's possible to get a train to Melbourne. So, we can add lack of awareness to the list of issues that needs to be addressed by Australia's regional rail transit. But this culture of not using trains for regional travel has some pretty deep roots, and that's in part because of the history of railways in Australia. The different colonies that would eventually become the states we know today built their railways to different standards, meaning trains running in one colony were often not compatible with the tracks used by another state. This wasn't really a problem all those years ago, as the colonies operated pretty independently from one another. For their purposes, the railways just needed to connect the towns and industry across the colony to their main city and port. And because all of the main cities are along the coast, what little needed to be transported between colonies could be fairly easily done by sea. As a result, train travel between the states is actually more of a recent phenomenon. It wasn't until the second half of the 20th century that a lot of the incompatibilities were addressed. Only by the 1960s were people actually able to take a direct train between Sydney and Melbourne, for example. Prior to that, travellers would need to change
1960s? That's a while back. I'm actually surprised, they had trains
at Albury. In fact, a passenger travelling from Perth to Brisbane would need to change trains no less than 6 times to reach their destination. This led to the current situation where the primary purpose of Australia's regional trains is still similar to what it was in the colonial era, to connect smaller regional centres, places like Bendigo, Albury or Toowoomba, to their nearest capital city. This isn't helped by the fact that each state has its own regional train operator, and there's little integration between them, like how the line that runs from Sydney to Broken Hill gets about 2/3 of the way to Adelaide, again 5th largest city, without going all the way there, even though there is the track available to complete the route. Amtrak in America is far from perfect, but at least as a nationwide operator it takes a more nationwide approach to its rail services. And the fact that it is nationwide means it has a much more recognisable brand, and a whole lot more people are aware of it than they are of Australia's patchwork network of regional train operators.
I see how it is.
But can this be changed? Can these train routes be improved enough to encourage more rail travel between the capital cities, as well as improving the experience enough to encourage more regional Australians to use these lines instead of their cars? Well, to address the speed issue, a lot of people have called for the construction of high-speed rail lines. And, while I'd love that, I don't see this happening anytime soon. I've got a full video on the somewhat challenging history of high-speed rail in Australia.
Will Australia ever get high-speed rail? That might be an interesting video
as well as what we can actually do to get our regional and intercity
Let me know, guys, in the comments if you want me to check out this video as well.
Trains running faster. If you'd like to hear my thoughts on that, I'll put a link to the video somewhere on screen. But even without high-speed rail, there are still a lot of improvements that can be made. Firstly, there's frequency. It wouldn't require heaps of infrastructure spending to add a few more services to each route. Some track might need to be duplicated, but that's about it. There's plenty of evidence to show that when services become more frequent, ridership increases as well. It gives people more flexibility and convenience when they travel. And currently on some routes, even where there is passenger demand, there's simply not enough services to accommodate all the people who want to travel. So, these services sell out, and passengers are simply forced to turn to other modes of transport.
The train stations
cost is another significant factor. If you can't compete with the airlines over speed, you can with cost. Airfares in Australia have reached pretty extortionate levels ever since the pandemic. It literally recently cost me significantly more to fly the 4 hours from Sydney to Perth than the 8 hours something from Malaysia to Sydney. And this has led to a lot of people considering the more affordable train options to get between the major cities. On top of that, when the state government of Victoria cut regional train fares, they saw such a boom in patronage that overcrowding became an issue. Again,
overcrowded cheap train tickets a hit, but passengers forced to stand for hours.
And something that could be addressed by boosting frequencies. But it does show that if the price is right, people would definitely consider the train. Others have even suggested sleeper trains as a way to get around the slow speed issue. The 11-hour journey between Sydney and Melbourne is a lot more bearable when it's done at night, as that gives you basically the perfect amount of time to have a good night's sleep and wake up in time for your destination. In fact, the ridership of these night train routes has been one of the few recent strong points in Australia's regional rail story. RM Transit actually did a whole video recently.
Honestly, it just depends in how much rush you actually are to get from A to B, you know? If you really need to get to the other city in time limit, I mean, for sure you take the plane, right?
Talking about how night trains could benefit Australia, which I'll link to in the description if you're interested. Ultimately, Australia's regional passenger trains really need some love. Old lines need to be reopened, frequencies increased, fares cut and speeds boosted. On top of that, more out-of-the-box thinking like sleeper trains should be considered as well.
That's right.
And if we do that, and invest as much in our regional rail network as we do our urban transit, we can encourage more people to ditch the heavily polluting cars and planes and onto the far more environmentally friendly railways.
Wow.
Well, I hope you enjoyed the video.
Yeah.
I'd like to know what you guys...
That was a really interesting video, actually. Really did enjoy it. I want you guys to let me know your thoughts, mainly by you guys that actually live in Australia, how you actually find the train system, like in your perspective. Let me know in the comments below, guys. If you enjoyed, like the video, subscribe to the channel, check out Discord channel as well. Link is below in the description. And yeah, that's about it for today's video. Thank you for watching, and we'll be seeing you on the next one. Peace out.